What's a secret you'll never tell your partner but are willing to tell strangers on Reddit? Story 1. One of my wife's family members once tried to sleep with me when we were alone. I refused, and we pretended it never happened. They are very close to my wife and they never did anything like that again, so I think I should keep it a secret. My wife's younger sister, when I first met her, spent the weekend I was there parading around in the skimpiest clothes, spent time doing her hair and makeup, and kept trying to get closer to me whenever she could. I brushed it off, and a couple of years later mentioned it to my wife. At the time, I just assumed she was sleazy. Turns out she just wanted to ruin something for her sister, and she even admitted it to her a few weeks after it had happened. My wife asked me why I didn't make a move, and my idiot self could have said, "Well, because I love you, of course." But instead I said, your sister is gross. Don't put that idea in my head." Before we continue, do us a quick favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. The one time when she and I first got together and she spent the night, I made it very clear I wanted her to leave in the morning. She was uncomfortable and brought it up later because of my behavior. I'll never tell her it's because, since I only had one bathroom at the apartment and she was on the toilet that morning forever and my butt runs on its own schedule, I had to poop in a small trash can on the back patio area I had. I had a high fence so no one could see, but there was a mess I needed to clean, both outside and on myself. But of course, when she's out of the bathroom, she has no idea and is asking about breakfast while I'm covered in poo. After she left, I tossed my clothes and the trash can in the dumpster and took a long shower. And she also doesn't know that's the reason I've insisted that any apartment we live in has 2 bathrooms. We've lived in 4 apartments together and each one has had 2 bathrooms because I'm not doing that again. Story 3. I have been seriously considering divorce for about 18 months now. She never smiles, never says anything nice, and is always complaining about everything. The only reason that I don't leave is my 2 children. I'm almost 100% certain that she would escalate from just verbal to physical abuse towards them. She had her uterus and ovaries removed 9 years ago and has completely lost interest in any form of affection. Not just the intimacy, though I miss that. I mean hugs and kisses, holding hands, wanting to be close. She thinks that buying me things would replace the lack of contact. Her close-mindedness has caused our daughter to stop talking to her about anything at all. Jane now confides in me about everything and is worried about what her mother would do if it were found out that she is more interested in girls than boys. I work 90 minutes away from our home and I had a small apartment close to my work so I wouldn't have to make the 3-hour round trip every day. I was forced to give up the apartment because we couldn't afford 2 households, but she keeps buying crap we don't need. She never cleans the house at all, always stating that no one else cleans up after themselves, so she's not going to anymore either. She uses her depression as an excuse for everything to get out of doing anything she doesn't like to do. If I thought I could get custody of the kids, I think I would leave in a heartbeat. Story 4. I asked the funeral director exactly where the burial plot was and went to the cemetery before the funeral for my wife's brothers. Thankfully, the hole was dug and no one was around. I slid back the plywood cover and I took the healthiest of crap in that woman's grave. I would have done it 1,000 times more if I could. She destroyed my wife's brother, destroyed his family, and she was just an awful crappy human. We all hated her, but I could never admit to anyone that I literally took a huge crap in the burial vault before they lowered her in. If they had wanted to cremate her, everyone who knew her would have been there with gas cans and logs to keep it burning. The only people who wouldn't have been in that line of fire were her mother and maybe her kids. Her father and her brother constantly talked about how she was a hateful, evil wuss. Even to this day, they speak of her as if it's a relief that she's gone. Oh, and I've peed on her grave twice over the last 1.5 years since they planted her. I hope she rots for what she did to this family. Story 5. My wife and I got married at 24 and I cheated and we got divorced. We got back together at 28 and got remarried at 29. We are both in our mid-40s now and are married. She thinks I cheated once back then. I actually cheated probably closer to 12 times, mostly at work with random women. I was an irresponsible, hedonistic bartender who always thought he could get away with everything. It's the most shameful time of my life, and it makes me cringe to even think about how I was back then. There was just never a good time to bring this up. There was a 4-year gap period, and what was in the past was in the past. Now it's so far in the future that I know for sure I am never going to tell her. She wouldn't leave me for it after all these years, and so all it would do is hurt her. And for what? Story 6. I'm not physically attracted to my husband anymore. I love him. He provides for us. He's patient and understanding that I'm highly strung, and he's a great father to our kids. I can't imagine not being with him, but physically and romantically, I'm just not attracted to him. He eats a ridiculous amount, to the point where I just raise an eyebrow but don't say anything, as it isn't my place to tell someone how much they can eat. He's piled on the weight noticeably. I'm not exactly the same person I was when we met, especially after a few kids, but even my subtle hints of let's work out together, and I've joined the gym, so come with me. We need to be healthier for the kids, and set a better example, but he just ignores me. So, I've just spent the last couple of years accepting who he is now and loving him in all other aspects, but I dread physical intimacy because I'm no longer turned on. Story 7. My husband's parents are really pissing me off, and I do not want to be around them anymore. They're lousy grandparents to our son, but not to his sister's children. For clarity, I love my in-laws. My husband and I have been together for 12 years. We just had our first son last year after trying for a decade. He was born very early and spent a good chunk of his life in the NICU. He's now 10 months old and has been home for almost 6 of those. This issue I have had with my in-laws is a very recent development. It started immediately when he came home. We told both sides of our family we wanted at least a week for the 3 of us to get adjusted. We also had 4 different doctor appointments in that first week. When my husband told his mom that we wanted that week, she got immediately upset. She assumed that my family would be coming by. He assured her that they were not, but she was still in belief that my mom would be here. My mom has a very demanding job and works a lot of OT. She manages to come see him at least once a week, and she lives about 40 minutes away. When she comes up, she spends several hours here. His parents live between 10 and 15 minutes away, depending on traffic. His dad does not work, and his mom has a lot of days when she works from home without a set schedule. They come up sometimes once a week and sometimes once every 2 weeks, for no longer than 1 hour at a time. I have told them on so many occasions that they're welcome to come up any time, as long as they call prior to coming, in case we have an appointment, or my mom is here. Our son is on oxygen and is still very high risk, so we try not to take him out too often or have him get overstimulated with too many visitors in one day. They see my sister-in-law's children daily or very close to daily. They're older, between 10 and 15 years old. There are 4 children, and the younger ones are not well behaved. When asked about why they don't come to see him more often recently, the father-in-law was coming up with all kinds of things to be annoyed about. A Facebook post about a college my husband posted, a security camera we have in our living room from when we took a vacation that isn't plugged in, and I was lying down because I got so little sleep the night before. I did talk to my husband about how I was feeling. He said he totally understands, and said he's been feeling a little upset about them himself. Again, I do not hate them. They're very dear to me, which is why it upsets me so much that they don't want to see their grandson. Story 8. I got our toddler out of bed one morning and went to do a sniff test to see if they had pooped overnight. And when I lifted my child up, I stuck their head in the ceiling fan. Also, one time I forgot to put the car in park while my kid was still inside. I was playing with my daughter, tossing her in the air when she was about 7 months old, because it made her laugh. I'd say it was about the 3rd toss of going increasingly higher that I heard, and then saw her head smash directly into our 10-foot ceiling. The look of utter shock and confusion that lasted for about 4 to 5 seconds on her face before she burst into tears. Now makes me laugh when I think back on it, but Christ, did it ever put the fear of God into me at the time. I was 90% sure I had just crushed my child's soft spot or compressed her neck. My wife said I ran up the steps with her, holding her like I just found her on the road after a car accident, trying to tell her we had to go to the emergency room right now. If I had sirens and lights on the car, they would have been on all the way, pedal to the metal. God bless the calm thinking of mothers. She took her, stopped her crying, told me to calm down as well, and calmly took us to urgent care for a quick checkup. We laugh about it now, but first-time parents just don't realize how bouncy and durable infants are. Even the nurse had a good chuckle when I told her what happened. Apparently, it's pretty common, and she explained durability to me, but was glad we stopped in just to be sure. I was worried she would be upset for wasting the urgent care staff's time, but they were incredibly understanding and helpful. Story 9. The time I banged a snowman in a ditch behind my house. Though it was innocent, it's not something I'd talk about with anyone except the millions of people on the internet. So I believe it was March 1993, and a huge blizzard swept the East Coast. I was young, bored, and extremely titillated. I didn't know then what exactly it was that I was feeling, but I knew that it was normal for my age. Well, we were out of school for what must have been 3 weeks, but it felt like an eternity. I wasn't around anyone my age. There were no girls in my neighborhood, and obviously no internet for browsing of a certain kind, but even if there was, I'd definitely be too afraid to attempt it. One evening before dark, I decided enough was enough, and I couldn't handle the urge anymore. I had been holding back for weeks because I was too embarrassed to do anything in the bathroom. The guilt and anxiety of someone catching me was too much. My room wasn't an option because the door didn't lock, and when my door was shut, someone would ask why or just open it. It was far too risky, and I couldn't jeopardize my reputation of being the only normal one in my family. I threw on my snow clothes and scuttled off into the wilderness behind my house with a plan. I wasn't sure I'd actually do it, but I wasn't exactly thinking straight either, for obvious reasons. Once I arrived at my destination, I decided to slide down into a gully that was about 15 feet deep. I sat there for a few minutes and listened for footsteps in case someone saw me, but it was silent, completely silent, to where I could almost hear my inner voice say, "Don't do it, man. This is the moment of no return," I told myself. I was like a runaway train, never going back, going the wrong way on a one-way track. Anyway, I got to work and started shaping Snow into a female body. She had a nice jugs, curves, and the necessary inlet. I then went ahead with the task that lay before me, and within a minute or so it was all over. A few seconds of guilt and shame overcame me as I zipped up and erased the evidence. I crawled out of the gully and back through the woods to my house. I went to my room and tried my best to forget her. But to my surprise, that would be impossible, and every time it snows, I still think of her. Story 10. When I asked her dad for his blessing, I had some liquid courage first, and I can remember what his response was. "Let's hope it was yes, because we've been married for over 2 years. When I asked my future father-in-law for permission, I went to his house and knocked on the front door, and he did not come to the door. I knew they were home and kept knocking. When he came to the door, I asked if I could come in, and he asked what I wanted. I showed him the ring and asked him through the screen door. That's when his whole persona changed. He hadn't recognized me after 3.5 years initially and thought I was the local church people going door to door. When it all finally clicked, he welcomed me in, but it's still a funny story that he purposely didn't answer for a few minutes because he thought I was an LDS door-to-door church person. Story 11. My wife and I started dating when we were in high school. One time, I was going back from her house late at night, and my father-in-law offered to walk me to the bus stop. He casually lit up a cigarette and even offered me one. I declined. I've never smoked. A couple of days later, my wife, then girlfriend, told me a beautiful story about how when she was a little kid, she asked her father to please stop smoking, and he did, cold turkey. Never smoked again, all because he loved her so much. I weighed my options for 0.8 seconds and decided it was not worth calling him out or crushing the image she had of him. I never even considered blackmailing him. Sadly, my father-in-law passed away a few years ago from unrelated issues, and I think I'm going to take this one to my grave. Telling on him would serve no purpose, and I'm 100% sure that this man loved his daughter very much and proved it in other ways. Story 12. I lost $50,000 on the market. It was thankfully money I made in only a month from the market, so it financially doesn't impact me, but I built that up from $500, and it's made me feel like such a failure and a loser. I'm so mad at myself about it, it physically made me sick for a few days, and I can't stop getting it out of my head. This is an amount of money that would have made a real financial difference in our lives, but greed got the best of me. I could have cut losses at any point, but my stubbornness in not wanting to make a losing trade led me to not only hold on to a losing position but also keep adding more to it in hopes I'd turn it into a winner. I'm sure some time will make it better, but right now I can help but sob when I think about it. Story 13. When he was away for work for 4 months, I was working full-time and single parenting, and was depressed. One morning, I hurried our kid out to the car before daycare with my hands full of stuff. I put everything in the car, put it in gear, and looked over my shoulder to back up. I backed up around 2 feet and hit the brakes. I didn't put our kid in the car, I was looking at an empty car seat. My toddler was standing beside his door on the passenger side waiting for me, and now he was crying because he thought I was ditching him. If I hadn't looked over my shoulder, I could have run over our kid, blamed sleep deprivation and all the other stuff going on, but mom guilt still eats me alive when I think about those 2 feet. And my husband will never know because I don't ever want him to think I'm a bad mom or know exactly how bad it was for me while he was away. Story 14. I had a devil's three-way when I was a teenager. He would be shocked, since in my adulthood, I became very conservative about it, because of STD and pregnancy scares. My new partner has been sort of my intimacy teacher, in the sense that I have discovered all of my pleasures with him. With him I truly learned what it's like to make love and how to give a proper BJ, and I had my first time doing other stuff in bed as well. Like 95% of my experience has been learned with my new partner, because all these new things have been experienced with my current partner, and I am very much against three-ways. He probably thinks I've never done this before. The truth is, the three-way was fun while it lasted, but I regret doing it. I have developed a more conservative approach to it as an adult, so my partner probably thinks I was this nun when I was younger. I refuse to tell him about my past before him though, because I don't care to know about his past either. I don't think anything that happened before him in my behind-the-door life is relevant to us today, unless it somehow would affect our intimate life today, but this three-way story definitely would not serve any purpose for him to know. Story 15. I have $2,000 a month being directly deposited into my own savings account. The rest of the money I make goes to our joint account. She thinks I don't make enough, and that we're poor, when the reality is that she can budget and spends poorly. The savings account has gotten so large in the past 5 years that I'm terrified that something will happen where I need to dip into it, and she'll ask where I got it and why I've been hiding it. Story 16. The thing that made me realize that I was in love with her was when I was taking a shower and got done. I walked into the room, and she must not have heard me get out. She was lying on her side on the bed with her eyes closed, and she was picking her nose. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I stepped back out, and from a distance asked where I set my clean clothes as I was walking back in, to make it seem like I was just coming in. She was visibly startled and quickly stopped, but continued to lie there with her eyes closed. I pretended that I saw nothing, but I couldn't help but smile. It was such an innocent and human moment. I have no idea why, but it made me realize right then and there that I loved everything about her. As silly as that moment was, there was a beauty in it, and I cherish that memory. Story 17. When I was 14, my grandma passed away. For years I had been bothering my parents for my own gold necklace. Well, grandma had a little bit of money, and she gave me the $300 for a gold necklace in her will. It was my pride and joy. I had it around my neck for 17 years before I met my wife. It was off my neck maybe 3 times in those 17 years. My wife, then girlfriend, knew how much it meant to me, and asked to wear it once. Well, it never came home. She had lost it somewhere, or it had been stolen. I was distraught like crazy for 3 or 4 days while we turned our house upside down looking for it. Inevitably, I gave up, but she was very bothered by it all. So, I decided to go to a pawn shop and buy the closest I could get to an exact duplicate, and then I told her that I had found the necklace in the couch cushions. To this day, she thinks that I found my necklace from my grandmother, but this is actually version 2. Story 18. This wasn't me, but my friend. So, his wife was really sick but was also extremely stubborn and religious. She believed that God would heal her, so he came to me and asked for a few of my sleeping pills. They're really strong and get you into a deep sleep quickly. So, he puts the pills in her drink, and like clockwork, in 30 minutes, she's out cold. He then asks me to help him get her to the hospital. The next morning, she wakes up in the hospital, Good thing too, because on top of that sickness she had stage 1 cancer, which she survived, and it's all good now. But he made me swear I wouldn't tell her what we did. Story 19. I miss the guy I married. Like painfully missing him. To the degree where I wonder if our marriage is going to last. Because each day makes me miserable just a little bit. My husband is a great man, and he was an amazing boyfriend, but sadly he is not a great husband. I got sick, and could have died, and it was like a flip switch. He started trying again, and aside from being sick, things seemed so great. As time went on, he slowly started to go backwards. There is no intimacy, kissing, or affection. I've caught him talking to other women twice, but he swears that he can't be without me. I work full-time, take care of the kids, and do 100% of all housework, including cooking. He sleeps all day and sits at the computer all night. If I mention or even hint at how I'm feeling, he starts to hate on himself, that he's a piece of crap, and he's a terrible human being, and accuses me of telling all my friends how bad he is so they can convince me to leave him. The moment I feel my lowest, he says something sweet and loving and tells me how much he needs cares about me. The day I worked up the courage to have a full conversation, his brother expired. I'm not giving up on our marriage because I know he's still in there somewhere, but the emotional pain is taking a physical toll. Story 20. My girlfriend bought the cutest corgi puppy ever. Once, while she was at work, it was late, and I was preoccupied watching TV while this puppy was just doing puppy things in the same room. I took a melatonin capsule to start winding down for bed. I failed to notice where I left it. Time passed, and I eventually looked back at the puppy and saw a bottle chewed up. I panicked, knowing it was the melatonin bottle. I quickly grab it and realize it is empty. Not one pill to be found. I see the corgi just lying on his stomach watching me. I quickly Googled to see if this was dangerous for dogs, and in general, in my findings, it would be okay as long as it wasn't the whole bottle, but it actually nearly was. For some dumb reason, I kept to myself, hoping nothing bad would happen. I told myself if he got sick by the time she got home, I'd come clean, and we'd do something about it. But if he survives, then it never happened. The whole night, he was just lethargic. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to my girlfriend coddling him like a baby and standing up while his sleepy eyes caught glances at me. My heart sank, and I just prayed he'd be okay. I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "He's just restless," not knowing anything that had happened. To this day, she never found out, but our beautiful dog is alive and well. I know it was super irresponsible. And honestly, one of the dumbest things that I did. I love our dog so much. And from that day I told myself never again would I hesitate or be careless with him. Story 21. There's a possibility that a person may have stopped breathing directly because of my actions. I really don't know if that happened or not. I don't have a partner, but if I had one I wouldn't tell her. Back in 2008, I was kind of fresh out of school and studying a language in a city a bus ride away from my hometown. All of this time I grew up in said rural town and was like this naive kid, really. So long story short, I stayed having drinks with some friends at the time and it got way later than I was happy with going home, but I needed to go home. So, I went over and took the bus, arrived at my town at like 10 p.m. and had to take a cab because there was no bus service after 9 p.m. So, well, yeah, I was walking home and as I turned onto a street 6 blocks away from my house, I saw this super sketchy dude. I instantly knew he was up to no good. I knew I was going to get robbed, but I pushed in, not wanting to turn my back, just playing it cool, acting tough. I said to myself. So the guy, as I expected, approaches me, and that's when I see he's not a dude but a teenager just like me, maybe a couple of years older but a youngster. I thought for a moment he was just drunk or partying and headed home just like me, but then he began to approach me with his right hand in his pants pocket and I felt that freaking knot in my stomach. I was gonna get assaulted. It was too late to turn and run away. The dude was like a meter from me, and it was all so sudden. He yells something, takes this steak knife out of his pocket and just launches at me, telling me to give him everything I've got if I want to live. He's pointing this knife at me while trying to reach into my pockets. I must tell you, I'm in no way a fighter. Heck, I'm all about running away from physical confrontation, but I am freaking tall, 2 meters since I was 17, super skinny and strong. Never weighed more than 70 kg but can lift twice that, and had been all my life. Well, maybe not nowadays, as I've surely grown weaker and exercise stopped being a priority long ago. Anyway, I don't know what got into me, but I just reached for his knife hand with my left one and elbowed him in the elbow with my right arm, effectively just making this guy stab himself in the neck. The guy jumped back, felt his neck, and didn't even scream or anything, just ran off, leaving my wallet and phone on the floor. I just picked them up and continued my way back home, not processing the thing that had just happened. The day after, I could not stop crying and thinking that I may have offed or seriously injured that guy. I never told a soul about it, so here you go, mate. Story 22. I'm addicted to this damn vape. I get on and off the wagon like a public train. I'll go 2 to 3 months without it, then I'll stop by a store and grab another, and there I go, chaffing again for another few months. She doesn't know I vape, and I hate hiding anything from her, but I've told myself the lie that it doesn't matter, it's such a small thing, it's just nicotine, and I don't smoke cigs, never have. But damn it, I like the vape, but I want to quit solely because I know she wouldn't like it. She's the best human on the planet, and she doesn't deserve to be kept in the dark, or for me to sneak around and have a puff when I'm gaming or out drinking with the boys. It's such a stupid thing for a grown man to struggle with, but nicotine is the best and the worst thing ever. Story 23. Our youngest son's first word wasn't mama. She was having a busy time at work and already felt guilty about not being home as much. Naturally, he spent most time with me, so his first word was papa. I kept my mouth shut and waited until he said mama and celebrated that as his first word. Story 24. My girlfriend of 5 years has been deaf since she was 6. She reads lips pretty well but prefers sign language. I didn't know a single sign when I met her, but I could tell right away there was something between us, so I started learning after I got home from our first date. Fast forward a few years, and I'm now fluent in ASL, and we use it to talk almost exclusively. When she's not looking, though, I talk to her even though she can hear me or see my lips to read. I tell her how much I love her, how I'm going to marry her someday, how beautiful she is, etc. I've even been practicing proposing, so it's not so terrifying when I actually do it. She has no idea, and I plan to keep it that way. Story 25. I don't know why I can tell her, but lately, after 3 years of marriage and a 9-month-old, I am more attracted to her than ever. It becomes distracting as I think about it all day sometimes. I think I'm embarrassed that it used to be a more average attraction, and now it is an overdrive. It has been this way for months. I know it probably sounds silly, but I don't know. It just feels like I became a different person recently. I'm willing to be that you didn't have an average attraction before. Your attraction has just grown. She grew and carried your child. As my husband tells me, that's an amazingly beautiful thing. I remember being less than a week postpartum, walking around the house carrying our second baby. I was still wearing heavy-duty underwear's pads, my breasts were leaking, I had deep circles under my eyes, and he told me that he had never seen a prettier woman in his life, that I was more beautiful at that moment than I was on our wedding day. We've been married 10 years, together for 13. We have both changed a lot, both physically and emotionally. He is still the most attractive man I have ever seen, and a lot of that is due to the shared history we have. We still send dirty texts. We think about each other all the time. We hold hands, slap butts, and kiss daily. I flash him a lot. We're so into each other. Probably more at 32 than when we were 19, though we still feel like teenagers sometimes. What you feel is wonderful. Please don't think there is anything weird, and you should definitely tell her. My 2 cents. Story 26. I feel trapped and feel like I have no say in my life. We got pregnant in college, and I did not want to keep the baby. They wanted to keep it, so we had the baby. If we were going to have the baby, I wanted to live with them, but they did not want to live together unless we were married. I did not want to get married, but we did anyway. One of my lifelong dreams was to get a doctorate degree, but I was told no. I wanted to move out of state to get away from my abusive family, but was told no. When they said they wanted another baby and I said I did not, we fought and argued until I relented, and now we have another child. Sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy too. We argue about things, and they tell me that I said something, or they didn't say something, or it didn't happen that way, and I feel like I'm going crazy. I've started writing down conversations, because at this point, I have no idea if I'm losing my memory from a concussion I had a couple of years ago, or if they don't remember what really happened either. I feel like I have no control over my life, and I'm just being told to do things. The homework is split, with them doing more than I, as I work full-time, but they tell me all the time about how I don't do anything around the house. I feel so trapped and depressed. I just want to run away but can't do that to my children. I am not depressed, but it's just nice to finally say it to someone. Story 27. I never paid for her engagement ring. I went to a custom jeweler to have her ring made. It's a beautiful piece, and she loves it dearly, and it certainly wasn't cheap, appraised and insured for around $10,000. The jeweler was dealing with a lot of family issues at the time and was incredibly disorganized. I went to pick up the ring and brought my checkbook to pay for it, and when she handed me the ring, I took it out and asked her who to make the check out to. She said, "Oh no, don't worry about it right now. Just send me a check in the mail." I thought that was strange, but sure, okay. She then hurried off to help another customer, and I left, but she never told me what the final price was. For the next 6 months I texted and called the jeweler asking, "Hey, just tell me what amount to put and I'll mail you the check," and there was always a reason she couldn't tell me. "Oh, sorry, I'm out right now, I'll find it and text you later." Her shop was a few hours away from where I live, so it wasn't feasible to stop by and handle it in person. I tried for 6 months, but after that, I stopped calling, texting, and just figured I got the ring for free. I wouldn't tell my spouse, because I don't want her to think I took advantage of the situation or that somehow the ring isn't as meaningful because I didn't pay for it. Story 28. I've been so depressed lately. I do not like my job. I have crippling anxiety driving into work every day. I'm in 6-figure debt, so I can leave. I can provide the life my family deserves, and it's only going to get tighter in the coming months. I cry most days. My wife and son are the only things in my life keeping me going. They do make me happy. Though it's sad happy, because I feel like I'm letting them down. My wife knows I'm not myself, but I won't tell her how bad things are. I know it will get better, but it's very hard right now. Story 29. My husband legitimately saved my life. He's a nervous, humble guy who doesn't like undue pressure or praise, so I keep it to myself just how bad off I was before he showed up. Because even in the aftermath of my mom's death, and even in the face of some pretty nasty health problems which I was just letting slide, because I was so depressed, I was kind of hoping they'd end me, I was very good at smiling and being charming. 3 years of taking care of a terminally ill parent taught me how to smile and bear it and feign positivity even when I'm running on empty. And I never felt like I could be anything other than the fixer, the doer, the person who always knows what to say. The reliable one. They are the ones who have every answer and can make bad feelings go away by just fixing the problem for you. I was not allowed to be negative. Ever. But he legit came in and helped me with mom's estate and cheerleaded me into getting out of a dead-end career and put a stake in the heart of some severely toxic relationships I had, and even helped me budget so I could finally afford health insurance, which wasn't a moment too soon, because I got hit with something nasty just in the nick of time. And he just kinda did it. In his mind, it was nothing much, because you were on the right track, but you had a lot on your plate and needed help. And I just nod and agree, because what else do I say? I actually wasn't. I was just going to let myself perish, because I was exhausted and miserable. Smiles aside, thanks for intervening. Story 30. I'm disabled. He works and brings home the bag. We do get disability pay, so it's still 2 incomes. I mostly clean, but my health gets in the way a lot. But man, I don't think I can ever tell him just how guilty I feel over my inability to consistently contribute. I hate that my disability and health overshadow some days. He gets home from work, and the minute he sees how sick I feel that day, he drops everything and ignores his own exhaustion to fuss over me. He should be able to come home to a meal cooked and a relaxing night of sitting on his butt before the next day of work. Sometimes he does get that, but a lot of times, it's just us making food together and cuddling and gaming rather than me being able to take care of him. I hate it deeply. I have talked to him about it a bit, just not about how often I feel guilty or how deeply I feel it. I do my best to make up for it on my good days. He has no problems with helping me out. At the end of the day, it's my mindset that needs working on. Story 31. My husband complains about being in pain so much that I feel like there's no room for me to be in pain, and sometimes I really resent that. I have a chronic health condition that I have no choice but to manage well because he wouldn't know what to do if he had to care for me like I have to care for him. Sucks, but it is what it is. My partner is otherwise lovely, and I've told him before, no need to beat a dead horse. To me, it's a small part of a big and full relationship, so it's just something I live with. My girlfriend kinda did this to me. She's someone who frequently has problems. Be they physical or mental, I'm usually the one getting things done and holding her together. The flip side is that on the rare occasion in which I need help, I feel like she resents me for it. A couple of months ago, I had a bad flu, fever, puking, diarrhea, the whole deal. As I'm languishing on the couch, she says something along the lines of, "I like when guys are sick. The world just has to stop turning for them." I'm like, what? I literally haven't asked you for anything. I just want to rest while I'm sick. We have an overall happy and supportive relationship. This negative snapshot is an exception and not a rule in our relationship. Partners can sometimes do or say things that are kind of insensitive or inconsiderate to someone they love. That's just part of being human. I know I have my moments that wouldn't make me look great in isolated incidents either. But part of being an adult is that during these moments we talk about it and communicate how those comments make us feel. In the aforementioned incident, it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the crappy job she worked at the time. They would blame people for calling in for any reason because they refused to hire adequate staff. Story 32. She offed a cat. She's very much a cat person. Once she picked me up from a friend's house, and while we were driving through town, a cat ran in front of us, and we heard a thud underneath the car. She screamed and looked in the rearview mirror, and we saw the cat stagger into a driveway. She was very upset and convinced she had ended it. I told her, no, the cat clearly ran across the street and is probably fine. She was meeting some friends, and I was taking the car home, so she asked if I would check the driveway of that house on my way home to make sure the cat was okay, and I said I would. I drove back that way and parked a few houses down and looked in the driveways, and there it was, lying motionless, sprawled out on the ground. Oh crap. Part of me was thinking, just go home and say you saw it happily licking its body, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to check to make sure it was still living. The problem was, it was a gated house that was also a B&B, so I didn't want to just wander in on someone else's property. So I rang the phone number on the sign at the side of the road. By this stage, I'm thinking, what the heck are you at? You should have been home long ago. But I was on autopilot and just went with it. The owner answers, and I tell him, there's a possibility of a dead cat in your drive. Do you mind if I come in just to check if it's okay? The guy is like, yeah, I guess. It's just that I'm out of town and there's no one here, but it's fine if you want to let yourself in the side gate. He also says thanks, so at this point I have to do it. I'm too far in now. I let myself in and walked over, and there she is, a big dead cat. Oh balls. Well, I'll just tell my wife the cat wasn't there, and we can forget about the whole thing, except the owner now knows there could be a dead cat on his property, and when he gets home and sees it lying there, he's got my number, and will know I just left it there. So now I have to make a decision. Do I leave this dead cat here, or do I take it away? And if I do, what do I do with it? Across the street is a store, so I walk over and buy bin bags and rubber gloves, make my way back over and scoop the fluffy corpse into a bin bag. Now I've got a dead cat in a bag, and I walk over to my car carrying this black bin bag. People are walking past me on the street, smiling and giving that upwards nod that strangers give. I give a nod back, but I'm not fully into it because they don't know I'm walking past them with a dead cat in a bin bag. I don't feel like taking it into my car because, it's a dead cat, so I googled vets, and there happens to be one not too far away, within walking distance. I rang and asked them if they dispose of dead pets. They said they do. So I made my way down there through the front door and asked the receptionist if I was just talking to them about pet disposal. She looks at me, slightly freaked, and says yes. I produced the bag and said, oh well, I have a cat here, and can I just give it to her? She's like, yeah, you just leave it at our back door, back outside, and charges me 50 quid for the pleasure. I walked back to the car and sat there for at least half an hour, in silence and as still as a dead cat, trying to process the last hour of my life. I texted my wife and say, "No, honey, couldn't find the cat. She must be fine," and ran off somewhere safe. See you at home. Story 33. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease about 5 years ago. I decided at that point that I would never get married or have kids, as the prognosis was not good. I isolated myself. It was a very lonely existence. Then we met about 2 years ago. Life has been sweet ever since. The disease is hitting its stride now. It is getting harder and harder for me to do things. I grin and bear it because I want these remaining years to be stress-free and happy. Story 34. I found my engagement ring before he proposed, so I knew when it was coming. We had just bought a house and were getting ready to move. I went over to paint the walls and randomly opened the drawers in the guest bathroom vanity and found a ring. My first thought was, oh no, somebody working on the house must have hidden it here and left it. Then I looked at it and realized I really liked it, so I tried it on. When I realized it fit, it hit me that it was for me. We had a vacation planned, so I figured he was going to do it then. And even though I had figured out that he would likely do it on our planned hike, I was still surprised when it happened somehow. Story 35. We just had a pregnancy scare, and he was terrified, but I really wanted to be pregnant. It upset me so much that he said it was going to ruin his life. Like, I get where he is coming from, but it just hurts, you know? I have wanted kids for as long as I can remember, and my partner and I have had the kids talk, and we decided we would wait, but we both want them in the future. The reason why I wanted to be pregnant was because it is my dream, but we are in no way ready for that. And it did kind of feel personal, as in the past he has been so supportive, and we took measures to make sure I wouldn't get pregnant, but we were scared that they didn't work, as none are 100% effective, as you may know, and him saying it would ruin his life kind of felt like a dig to me, and it hurt. Speaking as a child who was wanted by only one parent, it's not only your partner whose life would be ruined, it's imperative that you and your partner are on the same page with regard to children. I think the missing part here is whether or not you knew before the scare that he didn't want kids. Sure, it probably felt like a gut punch to hear him say it would ruin his life if you were pregnant, but if you knew he didn't want kids before, you really can't be upset over his reaction. But it would be a good time to figure out if he never wants kids or if it's a timing issue. Sounds like you want kids. Been there as the one who didn't want it, and now I have a kid, and love him to pieces. When I had that scare, I was 23. I loved my girlfriend, but I didn't have my life together in such a way that I thought I could be a good parent, not least of all because I had zero financial stability, nor did she. Years and years later, married to a different girl, I decided I was ready. We had a kid after a few miscarriages, and it's fantastic. But let me tell you, parenthood, especially after the first few weeks, is a grind. It's pretty important that your heart is in it, because no matter who you are or what your self-image is, there will be times when you wish for the days before you had kids. If your heart isn't in it, those days will be most days. And you know what? Everyone, especially your kids, will know. And that's no way to grow up, if you ask me. Story 36. My boyfriend probably already knows, at least to some degree, but I genuinely don't understand why he's with me. He's stunning, has a well-paying job, is charismatic, and wants to get married and have a family. He's like every woman's dream. On the other hand, I have an okay job, but nothing too fantastic. I'm probably a solid 4. I'm disabled both mentally and physically. I'm socially dyslexic, as I like to call it, mostly due to my PTSD. His friends probably hate me. I know they've said some not-so-nice things, and that my boyfriend and a couple of his other friends have said things to them about it, but nonetheless, because of my social awkwardness and my appearance, I hear what they say about other people and know that they feel the same way about me. When we first got together, I was really hesitant, because he's way out of my league, and there's no way someone like him is interested in me. But nonetheless, I just kept with it, and I'm glad I did, because we're going on 5 years together here soon. A part of me can help, but feel bad in some shape or form, and I still have some issues about past trauma that I know get in the way. Story 37. I'm not sure he's a strong enough partner to help me through my second round of immunotherapy for what is now stage 4 melanoma. We've only been dating for 6 months, and our relationship has been hit by some of the worst life events people endure in their lives. We went through an incredibly difficult period, marked by the sudden death of a parent, followed just a month later by both of us experiencing recurrences of cancer and beginning treatment at the same time. I know if we break up, he'll probably be my last partner, because who in their right mind would want to be with a woman who has stage 4 cancer? That's not why I'm staying with him though. I'm trying to figure out if our problems are a result of all the terrible circumstances during the short time we've been together, or if we really aren't good for one another. Dating is hard in your late 30s and early 40s, especially with a chronic, life-threatening illness. I'm trying to hang in there, but it's getting harder every day to have hope. Story 38. I was good friends with my now wife for 4 or 5 years before we eventually got together and fell in love. Getting out of the friend zone is possible, ironically, if you just be her good friend, refrain from making inappropriate advances, and be there as someone she genuinely loves spending time with. Back when we were friends though, I was a pretty heavy drug user and hid it from most of my friends and family as best I could. We've discussed this generally, but I don't think she realizes the extent to which I was ruining my life back then. It's still hard for me to talk about. I stole money from my parents, and there were repercussions with my job, etc. I'm lucky I never got into legal trouble. Honestly, things turned around when I started dating her because it inspired me to get my life together, and I had something to really live for. I've said to her once or twice that getting with her probably saved my life, but I'm generally very sarcastic, and she thought I was being facetious. I'd like to open up and be more honest about that time in my life, but there's still a lot of guilt and trauma buried inside me, and I feel restless anytime I think about talking about it. Story 39. When he cooks, he adds way too much salt, and I love salty food. He's also really proud of his cooking. I always ask if I can season my own portion, because he makes it too spicy for me, but in reality, I'm just not adding as much salt. He's an amazing cook, other than the salt, and we both have different food preferences, so it's not unusual for me to ask to season my own stuff, and for him to ask the same. I haven't told him because I didn't want to potentially hurt his feelings or seem ungrateful for his cooking, and it really didn't bother me enough to bring it up. It's not a big, elaborate lie I have going, just a little secret that I thought was funny and harmless. I am now aware of the potential health issues he could suffer down the line because of this. I will let him know next time he cooks me something. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.